For the Greenbush Central School District Board of Education meeting to order. Everyone in tonight, amen. Pledge of allegiance. First, we have on the agenda student council representatives. Mr. Harden. Next on the agenda is the approval of draft minutes for the September 10, 2024. Is there a motion to approve draft minutes? David, you do not see approval of draft minutes for September 2024. Approved. Favor? Approved. Approved. Favor? Board of Education. I just want to start by saying that being in the state for this is very challenging. Thank you for your continued support for students and athletic programs, especially in this person. Recognize the deep personal connections that you have with the here. After a comprehensive review, we are proud of our focus remains on the growth of our students. We endeavor to evaluate programs to facilitate financial inclusion. It's not easy, especially with such have this decision. We acknowledge that communication throughout this process, the goal of the process is possible. It's important to know that say that I too think that, you know, the first of all, it's a good to say that I think a lot of these that's what I'm about to. That's what I'm about to do. Let's please maintain order. Let's be so, and I understand that decision. So I do understand that. You know, it's not our intention that the individual coaches or the kids in the program the way that the thing is that all the decisions that we make impacts kids. They impact kids in their teenage years as a whole. Must have a way to value. I should say for myself, I must have a way to value them separately. What do we, what impacts are we talking about? Where are we trying to get to? So when we look at isolated, so when we look at this situation, and again, I'm sorry for the impact. Looking at the situation, there was a direction. At the end of the day, it's important as a government to think about the long term. There's a solidarity that we both lose today, which we have to look forward to. I just don't want to answer the question. The long term plan is about the kids. I'm just saying that because it hurt today, it don't mean that we're not going to do something positive. I just hope that we'll get promises and continue that. And where I just hope it's good.
I also want to make some remarks regarding remarks I'm about to share on my own. I'd like to first thank everyone who has up together involved our community and encourage you all to stay involved. I want everyone here to understand that this entire process is all involved. I've lost countless hours myself reading about this. It is not lost on me that this issue affects so many individuals, students, and families, including my personal friends. I was thoroughly disappointed how underpaid to know. I know I am in the minority on this part, not being recognized for multiple factors that led us here to the as a member of this board, I've been committed to fighting for transparency and processes and development.
address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing are prohibited and will be declared out of order. All comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Yeah, you may begin, yes.
My name is Dave Tran. I'm a member of the lacrosse community in the Capital District. You look around here, raise your left hand if you support Coach Sherwin and Coach Keller. Why? Why do you do it? Because Coach Keller and Coach Sherwin love these kids. They'll do anything for them. Anything for the program. To make it better, like you said, tomorrow, later in the year, next year, they're here for these kids. How can you possibly take this away from these guys? I don't understand it. Explain the reason why. Because of an accusation, because of a misstep. Everybody does that. You do it. You've done it. You've done it. I've done it. Okay? But the heart of lacrosse in this community is paramount. All Sherwin ever did and all Keller ever did was to make this program better and to make it the greatness that it was before. And you're taking it away from them. I don't understand why. But you could see the day-to-day things that these guys do at no cost to anybody, except for time away from their families or getting up early in the morning and doing something for free. And you're letting these guys go. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Lacrosse, these guys know it. Lacrosse, it goes deeper than politics. It goes deeper than agendas. All right, it's a love and something deep inside that no one can ever take away. But you're doing your best to do it. I don't understand it. There's guys up here what I would die for. And some guys right here sitting next to each other. Someday may feel the same way. That this is so much deeper than just an agenda. That someone really you know, hey, someone said something bad to my kid. I don't know. I don't know what the whole, I don't even know what you guys, what the whole situation is. I don't care. What I care about is that these kids love Coach Sherwin, Coach Keller. And for you to not even justify why is awful. All I want to do is just reconsider. Don't support something just because it's the common interest. Don't support something just because it's like it's going to make you the person that they like. All right, stand up for something that means more than that. All right. Just do that. Just step outside yourself once in a while and say, there's something more to this than is on paper. And there's something more to this that's just someone's opinion. Please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Marcioni. I started playing lacrosse 3 years ago in the winter program run by Coach Sherwin. During that winter, Coach Sherwin strung my first stick and helped me begin what I hope will be a long career in lacrosse. I didn't know anyone there, and I didn't know anything about lacrosse. Coach Sherwin made me feel welcome. He made me feel part of the program from the first time I stepped foot on the field. Coach Sherwin teaches us not just about lacrosse, but about working hard, being part of a team, and never giving up. Coach Sherwin has worked with me throughout youth lacrosse, lacrosse camps, clinics, winter sessions, and summer off-season. He has also helped me find additional opportunities to play lacrosse. This past season, I was on JV, and although Coach Sherwin wasn't my main coach, he was always there to help me be the best I could be. He made sure I had opportunities to work with the older players so that I could learn from their experience. At the end of the season banquet, I got to hear Coach Sherwin talk not just about the players' accomplishments on the field, but also off the field. He gets to know you not just as an athlete, but as a student and a person. I felt a greater connection with Coach Sherwin than any coach I've ever worked with. I've been looking forward to playing on Coach Sherwin's varsity team since the first time he showed me how to pass. Coach Sherwin has done so much for the school and so much for the lacrosse community. He has put so much time and effort into building the program to make us successful. If you ask him for any favor, he will gladly do it. So I say it's time to do the lacrosse community and Coach Sherwin and Coach Keller a favor and reinstate them as head and assistant coach. They teach us to never give up, and we will never give up on them.
My name's Tucker Ellis. I prepared a speech today, but I'm not going to read it. I don't really think it does any good. You've heard what we have to say about these two coaches. I do want to address what you said earlier, your statement on why this decision was made. I think you failed to answer the question. I don't think you answered it at all. You said that it's for the future of the program, but as far as I'm concerned, this program doesn't really have a future without them.
My name is Buck Delmater. I'm a varsity lacrosse player, and this is my senior year. As you can see, I am currently in a boot dealing with an injury that happened at the end of my junior year. I have had 2 surgeries and been out almost 6 months. I've been rehabbing in hopes to try and come back and be coached by these coaches for my senior season. These hopes have been wiped away, and I stand before you asking for a change in your decision on this matter. I ask you to put the players first and please reinstate these coaches. Thank you.
I do want to address briefly, the comment to clarify my comments about saying the future of the program. And my comments was about us as a district. I think that it's challenging, if we waffle on a decision, to have confidence as a governance team, right, making decisions in the future. So when I'm saying about the future, it's about how are we as a governance team, how are we positioned to continue to make the challenging decisions, all of which impacts kids at varying levels. And it's just that as a governance team, if we're sowing dysfunction, or if we sow like the inability to make effective, efficient decisions, or if we impact trust on the governance team, it's important that we retain that. And it would be similar to like on a team, like there's always decisions that has to be made, like who starts, right, on a team. Like no one wants to make decisions, about who goes first, knowing that people are always impacted by decisions. But it's about how do we keep the whole together as we move forward. No one wants to take away athletic programs or impact children negatively. That's not what we're here for. But all right. Back to the public forum.
I'll raise up. I'm a little taller than you fellas. Gentlemen, great job. I'm proud of you for getting up here and speaking. I know it's not easy to do, but well done. I hear a lot coming from this board, and it just doesn't connect the dots. So I'll take a different approach. My name is Chris Trumbull. I have 3 in the Columbia Lacrosse program. I'm a board member for Columbia Lacrosse Club, but I'm going to speak as a parent, as a person who's been involved in sports at the collegiate level and really kind of gets it. It's terrible to lose a coach. I understand. I understand what these juniors, seniors, sophomores are going through, and you see it. You talked about what's our plan going forward, what we're looking to do going forward, getting a line in this district. We worry about the kids. Well, I think you missed a key part here. And I just heard earlier when I had a conversation with somebody, talked about, well, we're not cutting the swim program, we're just getting rid of the pool. Okay, well, how do I have a swim program anymore? I'm not affecting the Columbia Lacrosse Club, which is the feeder system for Columbia Lacrosse, right? So we are affecting children. We have 2 individuals, one of them, Greg, and literally in 2018, I had no clue about lacrosse, except my friends in college played it when I played football. And within 2 weeks, he had me learning about it and coaching it. I've been coaching it for 6 years now. To pull people in, that's what it is. It's about community. It truly is. I understand that there's going to be issues, and you have tremendous issues. I mean, this is a black eye. Failure from HR to transparency and communication, that's internal. And that's something where I actually do hope that there is a governing body put together to look into this. I do, because this is the turnout. This is a turnout for something that you say is not going to affect the community because its club is this, Columbia Lacrosse is this. They're intertwined. These shirts right here show you, our sponsors show you, as we turn down 20 to 30 every year to try and get on it. This is nothing but community. The fact that we are hiding behind secret meetings, bogus comments, I don't know where we've seen this any other time. And I respect that the board will not answer questions. You guys would never be productive. I get that. But there should, and that's fair. But there should be answers down the road. I'm not going to argue why someone got turned, but I'm going to argue the process that did it. Because I don't know of any other coaches that had evaluations done yet. I don't know. I know in my business, if I were to do that, my litigation and my attorney would be screaming at me left and right. So all we want is fair transparency. We want you to step back and say why they are 2 separate programs. They are one. That is our feeder system that makes Columbia Lacrosse. The 2 individuals who, and the statement was made first, at no cost. It's tremendous cost and personal time. John, every time we talked in the off season, well, I just restrung and I'm welding 25 new goals. We'll be good to go. No cost to the program, doing it himself. dedication and time. Greg stopping and all of a sudden doing every string. Here, take my stick. I'll go do yours right now for you. That's what we build. That's what we have. We pull people in. And when you gut that program, and if that decision stands, as foolish as it may be, as someone who sits on the board for the Columbia Lacrosse Club, I don't expect them to stay around and say, support this. If they go to another program, well, guess what? LaSalle's going to have a great program, and they're going to have a great feeder system. Shen's going to have a great program and an even better feeder system. Averill Park, we are pulled in every single direction. Our children are pulled by every sport that's out there to capture them, to get them involved, to build those friendships. I've seen it on multiple levels, involved in multiple sports in this town. Sit on multiple boards in this town. The engagement here is through the roof. No one was here when we had our mini tournament, and thank God no one from East Greenbush was here, because it was embarrassing how the fields were done and just made us look poor to 6 other schools in the capital area. When we go to places and it's gorgeous. The amount of community support, people that just randomly showed up. Programs that are coming up to us asking, how are you building such a feeder system? Where are you finding the kids? How are you getting this? That's what you're gutting. That's the true issue. The other stuff, that's litigation. That's on you. But this stuff here is community. So please don't sit here and say we think about the future and the community when we make these tough decisions. When you then follow by saying they're 2 separate entities. Yes, my left leg and my right leg are different, but they're on my body.
Good evening. My name is Michael Morin. I live in the Janae school community. Thank you again for the time, for allowing me to speak tonight. Everybody talked about how great the lacrosse program is and how much these individuals have meant so much to us. And what they do outside lacrosse program, the message that they give to all of us, that's more than just knowing how to string a stick. It's more than being a great goalie. And some of you board members, thank you so much. You did hear us, so I appreciate that. And there's a lot of information that was said tonight from the board, statements that were released. And all I'm really hearing is that, thanks for coming out. We know you really care about this, and it's a hard decision, but we're not going to be able to help you out here. We're not standing behind you. It's just, for me, okay, I'm a dad. It breaks my heart to see my children go through things that bother them. But yeah, what was the reason we got to this point? And not for me, but look at these guys. Jeff Simons, are you able to tell these guys exactly why they're not coming back? Like, what message are we telling our children in our community? You can be a passionate individual. You can go above and beyond. You can do all these things, but yeah, you know what? That's not really what we're looking for. And again, do me a favor, tell these guys, break it down to these guys so they know when they get older and they're in these positions and they want to be the passionate individuals. They want to stand up and do amazing things and be extraordinary, not ordinary. That, we're going to do it a different way. Well, come on. And again, tell them, please tell these guys. Thank you.
My name is Andy Lindberg. I live at 8 Maple Street in Rensselaer. Grew up here, went to this school, played lacrosse forever. I guess I could say a lot of things. Columbia, this is a great program. You've heard that a million times. One thing I want to add, right now, we're not a powerhouse team. This is not like a Niskayuna where the coach can do whatever he wants and just kind of like skate through. He's building this. He's got, there's, another, 500 youth kids that are here. We can get them to come here. They're not here right now, but like right now, Greg keeps coming back because he wants to make this better. I've talked to Greg after games where they've lost and he's already thinking about what can he do the next time. So I understand you guys had a tough decision to make. And I know last time there was confusion. We didn't know what was next. Like, were we going to vote? Or is there something going to come out? And the letter came out today, like 10 minutes before we walked in here, so everyone's scattered.
And I guess my question is like next steps, because I know Greg is not doing HR and lunch monitors, right? If a lunch monitor wants to, is Greg doing the HR on that? Probably not. There was mistakes made. We can kind of skip over that if we just say, can Greg and John reapply? Can they reapply for their jobs? They may not come back. A lot of people might not want to work for this district. If this starts happening, all the other coaches who haven't got evaluated, those other coaches will start saying, my job's not safe. Why should I put thousands of dollars out throughout the year when I don't even know if I'm going to get rehired? So I think maybe we don't need as many answers if somebody can just say, can they reapply for their jobs? And maybe they'll come back. They love the school, they love the program, they probably would come back. So that's all I'm asking is, can they come back? You don't have to change your decision. Can they reapply? So that's it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jason Brown, like Andy, and I'm an alumni of this district. I'm the proud parent of two students of the district who happen to be multi-sport kids. Out of all of the communities that my kids participate in sports, this is by far the closest, the most tight-knit, and the most supportive one, and it comes from the leadership of Coach Keller and Coach Sherwin. I'm going to fumble a little bit because, as it was mentioned, I only learned of the finality of this decision on my drive here, so my remarks that I wrote are now relatively inappropriate. I thank you for the time and attention on this matter. At the very least, I think we can all acknowledge that there's faults in many sides of this issue, and I find it extremely unjust that there are two individuals that are paying the price for a much more complicated situation. You know, the human experience is to make mistakes, and I don't find anyone that was made in this so unforgivable that we can't as a community work together and find a path forward that restores these individuals to the place where these young men need them, and my kids will need them in a few years. As I've listened to your words tonight, I've been told that this is beyond lacrosse and this is about the district, but I don't know if you've taken the perspective to think about how this decision will reverberate in those other arenas. I try and be a community-minded person. I volunteer in my kids' classroom. I coach an Odyssey of the Mind team. I'm on the board of a different sports organization. I coach there as well. And I've sat in your seat in boards for nonprofit organizations. I tell you all that just to simply say that everything I'm able to do, all the funds I'm able to donate, the time that I can put in, all of it pales in comparison to what I witness every day when I see Coach Sherwin and Coach Keller. When I look around this room and when I look around our community, I see a lot of people that are willing to help. But the reality is, when you see that none of us can hold a candle to these two and that their work isn't enough, can we really expect folks like myself and others to then step up and say, I want to serve in that capacity too, when you find it can all be taken from you from one simple oversight or one small error? To go beyond lacrosse, you can't tell me that every other coach doesn't also see the dedication of these two individuals, and every other program is now looking over their shoulder going, are we next? Can you expect that they're going to put in the off-season workouts, the extra opportunities for kids, and caring about the things that the kids do all outside of the lines of competition if, again, one miscommunication, one error, one human experience can take it all away? And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, I think about my kids and the other young people. We ask these young people to do daring things, to do difficult things, to lean into the school subjects that they're not very good at, to try hard, to make mistakes, to pick up the pieces, to learn from it, and to do better next time. As a parent, I remind myself as often as I can that my children are much more likely to follow my example than to follow my words. And I think as a district, we need to remember to do the same. If we want them to struggle, to fail, to do better, and to grow through that, we need to lead by the same example. We can't hold adults to one mistake and cast them aside. If we do that, all it shows the kids is that every error may lead to your termination. We can't expect them to pardon me. I'm sorry, I lost my place, everybody. Very simply, our students cannot grow and cannot succeed under those terms. If they're afraid to make a mistake, they will never strive for anything, and that is the biggest lesson that sports teach them. So together as a community, let's find a way to accept that errors were made on both sides. Let's find a way to communicate about what they were and how we move forward. And please, for these gentlemen who need it for this season and for my kids in seasons to come, let's fix this mistake because our community deserves better.
That's going to be a tough one to follow. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sean Burek. I'm a Columbia Lacrosse alumni, class of 2003. I'm going to come at this from a different angle and look at these kids right here and just effectively tell you guys I'm really sorry. You're being robbed of a tremendous opportunity, one that I had because of guys like John Keller and Greg Sherwin. I was able to explore this sport, not just as an athlete, but as a student in college, make connections through ways that I couldn't have imagined because of the support I got from these guys. And I wouldn't be really standing in front of you today, you know, being able to talk like this and public speak if it weren't for these guys either, because if you think about it, you know, I haven't had, you know, the opportunity really to explore or grow as a person in college and play sports and be part of a team without the support of the community that I'm a part of, which is what this is. And effectively what you're robbing these kids of, really, that's what you're doing. I respect, you know, the jobs you have must be really hard. It really, really must be hard. And it's tough to come up here and even talk to you guys because I feel like it's falling on deaf ears, but it's kind of, you know, trying to do a service to these guys anyway. Without John and Greg at the helm of this thing, I really think this program is doomed to fail. It really is, and I think everybody here would agree with that. There's nobody. There really is nobody here that can take the mantle like these guys and that care enough about it like these guys do. I know you've heard it from everybody, and everybody's going to tell you the exact same thing. I implore you, please, as a former athlete, as someone who went to this school, graduated from the school, played lacrosse at the school, played at a high level after I graduated. I would really be nice to be proud to be a Blue Devil again. That's all I'm going to say.
Good evening. My name is Steve Blydenberg. I am class of '86 and also had the joy of playing lacrosse with John Keller. Last time I stood up in front of this microphone, we talked about everything that he did for the community and does for the community. And that's great. And today's a little bit different. Today, I have questions. First of all, I'd like to thank the 3 board members that spoke and said they weren't in favor of this. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And hopefully more board members will get on board of the injustice of what is going on. So my first question is this. With these evaluations that are done, I work in the corporate world, I get evaluated, and we have a plan. And normally when evaluation is not held to a certain standard, you approach the person that their evaluation is below standards, and you work on how to better that, how they're going to better the program or better what you're looking for. So at what point did you or anybody else or the AD go to them with the original questions that you had? Oh, they didn't have access to extra time. They didn't have conversations with the AD. There was a list of them of reasons why they were not reinstated. So at what point was somebody actually brought to their attention and actually talked to either one of them and said, hey, we have to do this to make it better? Now, you spoke earlier about making this better, but nobody actually approached them. Did they? I know this is a really tough question. Yes or no? Did anybody actually talk to these two coaches about their situation, about what is going on? But yet you made a decision and didn't even ask a question to them. So I have a tough time with that because a program from the AD wasn't even put together and said, hey, listen, we're having a problem with Mr. Keller. You know, he doesn't communicate well with the parents. Well, let's talk to Mr. Keller and tell him that we have that problem. But was that ever done? Did any of the students or anybody that's here complain that they didn't have enough time with the coach or that the coach wasn't giving them the time that they deserved? So I have a tough time with this. I really do, because in a corporate world of trying to make things better, there's communication. And right now, it doesn't seem that the board is communicating very well with the people that are volunteering in the community or the coaches. Is this how you do your evaluations for your teachers? Do you evaluate them and find out that when they're not producing or doing what you want, and then all of a sudden there's no meeting and they're gone? So I don't know. It just doesn't seem normal to me. And what you're doing to these kids, because like I said, I came through the program. I had the joy of playing this. Some of the happiest times of my life was winning sectionals with all the guys. I still meet the guys from '86, and we still get together. So think about what your statements. Mr. Temple, you made a statement about how this is bigger for the group and everything like that. I'm sorry, I disagree. I have a couple other words that I could say, but I'm sorry. I don't disagree. I totally disagree with your statement if I could interpret it what it actually was. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good evening.
Good evening. My name is Katie Sherwin. I have two daughters in Columbia, and I am Coach Sherwin's wife. First, I would like to make clear for anybody who doesn't fully understand the relationship between Columbia Athletics and the Columbia Lacrosse Club. It is true that there is some relationship there. Columbia Lacrosse Club is truly a feeder program for Columbia Lacrosse. There is no successful high school program that does not have a successful youth program. So that said, in the sport of lacrosse, off-season work for the high school program is done by the head coach. That's how it's done. So that's traditionally done through open turf, which is time that's provided by the district for the coach and the school players to practice in the off-season. The Columbia Lacrosse Club does not run open turf for the varsity, junior varsity, and modified programs. That's why with the girls lacrosse program, this fall ball open turf time is run by Coach Randall. The only reason that these boys and these players have an opportunity this fall is because Coach Sherwin is now giving them time through the Columbia Lacrosse Club because he refuses to let these players down. So, despite your words stating that you do actually care about this, and are dedicated to these kids, Coach Sherwin actually is. So, like so many others here tonight, I really don't understand how this decision could have been made, quote unquote, carefully. I know that there were no inquiries of or conversations had with either of these coaches. So what did you base this decision on? There was no other side. I know that Coach Sherwin provided a full write-up of his side of the events. Nobody ever followed up with him. Nobody asked him any questions. And it directly refutes the information that is in that evaluation. So what were you considering when you made this decision? In your statement, you stated that the superintendent, through the Human Resources Department, will lead a full review of the processes and procedures to foster fairness and transparency. So what does that even mean? What processes and procedures specifically? HR's processes and procedures, because HR surely needs to be evaluated as a result of this, but if HR is leading a review of HR, we have bigger problems with the judgment of this administration and district than I previously thought. So I cannot imagine a school district existing without clear policies and procedures for the hiring of district employees and volunteers. So why is a full review of HR not taking place? Wasn't this partly a failing of HR? So you also state an external review of athletic programs will also be conducted to promote alignment with the district goals. And who exactly is conducting this external review? I would like to know. So as was made clear to you in some of the correspondence that you received, this information was not withheld from the district, the information that Coach Sherwin and Coach Keller are being accused of withholding. Any claims that Coach Sherwin withheld it are completely false. Ryan Jones, the athletic director, was fully aware of this volunteer coach's past. As I said, I am Coach Sherwin's wife. I hear firsthand conversations between Greg and several of his colleagues, Ryan Jones included. And I can tell you affirmatively, without doubt or question, he was aware of this coach's past. So, if Ryan Jones was aware of this past and chose not to tell the superintendent, and when asked by the superintendent, decided to lie about his knowledge of it, is he not also being let go? With the failings in HR, and is the HR director also not being let go? So,
Ms. Sherwin,
if the answer...
Ms. Sherwin, I want to hear the rest of your comments, but I would ask you to be mindful of broaching into discussions that are critical of individual personnel. Okay, if you want to discuss the process, and criticize the process, I would just ask that you be mindful to not make critical remarks regarding personnel of the district. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
So I'll repeat, I guess. If there are failings elsewhere, are those related staff not also being let go? If the answer to that question is not yes, then you are showing us tonight the ultimate hypocrisy. You don't actually care about the district mission and the words in that statement. This is all just lip service. This is the furthest thing from actual leadership. So I don't know. I don't know in what universe coaches are solely responsible for the vetting of candidates, but if all of you are focused, if you are all focused just on these two coaches, right? The bottom line is they informed the person that they should have informed. Whether or not that person chose to move that information forward is on them, not these two coaches. It is on your policies and procedures. It is on your HR department, but it is not on these two coaches. So you talked tonight about trust in the administration and how important that is and why this decision had to be made to maintain trust in the administration and trust in the decisions that are made. And the great irony about that is that Greg always preaches to everybody, not just his players, his kids, his friends. I hear it, everybody hears it, the importance of integrity and accepting responsibility. This decision proves to these kids the vital importance of that because they can see what happens when that value is not upheld. This is what happens when you don't admit your own mistakes and shift the blame. What a sad, unfortunate way to reinforce Greg's lesson to these players. And lastly, your last sentence in your statement thanked us for our understanding and continued support. I want to assure you, we do not understand this, and we most certainly do not support it. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Simons.
Good evening. My name is Karen Roy. I am a grandmother, a mother, and I graduated from this district. So I've been here a very long time. All three of my daughters played sports. My 9 grandchildren are now playing sports in the district. I have watched coaches. I was president of the East Greenbush Girls Softball League for many years. So I know that there are good coaches that we want our children to have. And then there are the coaches that maybe shouldn't really have any interaction with the children. I've watched the lacrosse games, and I've sat, and my girls can tell you how critical I am of coaches, because what I look for is I look for somebody who encourages the children, who instructs them, and who acts in a professional, appropriate manner on the field as an example to these children. I've seen that in both of these coaches. I listened about their character at the last meeting. We've heard some of that tonight. I am here because I believe that there was a flaw in the system that needs to be fixed. And as a taxpayer, a grandmother, a parent who has now 9 grandchildren in this district, I want to know, and I think I deserve to know as a taxpayer, what the process is, and I'd like to see that outlined. If you have a company that you use to do background checks, who that company is. And if there's going to be a committee, I'd be happy to participate as a community member, because I believe if we are willing to let go 2 men who have done nothing but provide our kids with an example that we want them to pay it forward, then I'm concerned for my grandchildren. Because again, I've been in this district for a very long time. I've seen coaches who should not have been coaches here, who have, maybe these coaches had a maybe lack in judgment if they suggested that a coach be hired. But all as you had to do, and I think you all know what Google is, all as you had to do was Google the name, and any employee of this district would have said, nope, time out, this person cannot be hired. I don't care who recommended them, they cannot be hired. So if that is the case, and again, I don't have all the details, again, it was poor judgment on their part, but does it really warrant such drastic measures on your part? So I would like to know when I can expect an outline of your hiring process. Again, because I want to make sure that my grandchildren have nothing but the best in this school district. And I want to know what company you use to do background checks, because obviously you might need to change companies if they did a background check on this gentleman. And I think you really need to take a step back and reconsider your decision for the betterment of this community. Not because it's Columbia sports versus community sports. It's about leadership. It's about example. It's about the human flaws that we all make. And again, do those flaws define us? I don't think so. I think it's how we handle them that defines us. So I implore you to take a second look at this and maybe reconsider. But who can I expect that information from on the hiring process? Is there somebody in the district that's going to send that to me? In fact, maybe we should have it out to the community so that we all understand what the hiring process is. Can anybody answer that question for me?
The district doesn't respond to public comment.
Okay,
Okay, okay.
but I can expect
We will
something in
circle back with you
return.
at some point.
Hi, my name is Beth Von Eitzen. I have 2 children in the district. One of my boys is right here. He plays lacrosse, and we take this all very personally, all of us. I did have this other speech kind of written last night, but I had to change it with the news coming in very last minute that the board is supporting the decision that the administration has made. I have to say I'm flabbergasted and I'm highly disturbed by the decision that you made tonight. But I do truly appreciate the support from the few board members who were strong enough to go against the grain, to stand up for what is right and for what you believe in. So thank you very much. This is a complete disservice to our students, whom you have sworn to do right by. You're failing them. As a parent of a player, I'm angry that we are losing the most invaluable coaches. I'm angry that my son, our boys, are entering into preseason with zero guidance on who will coach them or if they will even have a team to play for. I'm angry for the seniors who may now have college scholarships at stake, who might not get to play their senior year. It's not right. I'm angry for these kids who should not have to grieve their coaches, who have done nothing wrong but be good human beings. Lastly, I'm heartbroken and angry for Sherwin and Keller, whose names are being mucked up because someone can't admit they made a mistake. It is not right. What are you teaching our boys? What are you teaching our students? Our kids are constantly learning and looking up to adults. In this situation, adults are teaching our kids to not stick up for the underdog, that people are disposable. If you do not like them or agree with them, you just make them disappear, even if they're doing right by the kids. We're teaching that it's okay to bully and bulldoze those who have less power because it's easier than admitting we are wrong. The adults are teaching the kids about checks and balances and how they are faulty, how innocent until proven guilty does not always apply, and that adults, when given the opportunity to make the right decision, may still fail kids. The board has been given evidence and the timeline to all the events that have taken place, and if you as a board member did not read through this timeline thoroughly, you are missing the full picture. Given the decision made by the board tonight, it is clear that this has not been investigated thoroughly. Our coaches are being used as scapegoats. Please let us know that you are not just hearing us, but we're actually being listened to. We need to know how these decisions came to be, who truly made these decisions, and what was the true motive behind it. Do not let the mistakes and shortcomings of the school district solely lie on the shoulders of Sherwin and Keller. Please continue to investigate the truth. It is not too late to make this right. If they cannot be immediately reinstated, please make it a point to let them reapply and interview with a fair, just, and non-biased hiring system. As a recap, I would like the following. I would like to know, will our boys have a lacrosse team to play for at Columbia High School? Who will their coaches be? Can Coach Sherwin and Coach Keller be reinstated immediately? Can they reapply if not? Can you please complete a thorough and equitable investigation into the chain of events, finding where system errors may have occurred and taking corrective action where it actually lies instead of the easy way out, cleaning house and placing blame elsewhere as a cover-up? Lastly, I believe our boys deserve an apology. They do not deserve this. They are angry, they are sad, they are confused, and they are trusting that the adults will figure this out and not fail them. You have the chance to do the right thing. Make it right for the people who count most, our kids and our coaches. Thank you.
I would just like to say, every day at the beginning of school and at the beginning of every board meeting, we say the Pledge of Allegiance. In the end, it says, for liberty and justice for all. So why aren't these coaches getting their justice?
I apologize, I didn't prepare this. I've just been sitting back listening. My name is Jeremy Purick. I coach in the Columbia Youth Girls Program, volunteered my time. At the beginning of this meeting, several board members mentioned the word transparency. I don't really see any of that in your answers. If we are dealing with one person's background check not coming through your processes properly, why are the coaches not meeting with the board and yourself, the AD, to see where these failures actually were permitted? Are you going to take the two coaches? And I'm an employer in the area. They cannot, there's a box you have to check when you're checking an application. If that box is not checked, you cannot say anything. The word is felony. So it is up to the people reviewing that person's application to complete their thorough investigation as to whether or not he's acceptable for the board, for the HR department, for the AD, for yourself, Mr. Simons, the superintendent. Now, the school board's letter tonight was very circular. It just spoke around the words. These gentlemen do deserve transparency. Why are you doing this? What are your answers? Why were these coaches let go? Do you think because someone may have made a mistake and it's not too late to correct that mistake, we have to get rid of two other people who are associated with that really did their job and there were failures in your system? So next time there's a board meeting, how about we get some real transparency, not circular talk? How about coming here with the answers to these things? We do have time, like others have mentioned. I mean, yes, I do think the world of Mr. Sherwin and Mr. Keller as coaches, as also mentors to these young boys and the program they're building for Columbia, not just for themselves. They give a lot of their time. So please take the time as board members. Why don't you bring in Mr. Keller and Mr. Sherwin, the AD, HR, figure out where your process failed. That's your job to hold him accountable. And I'm sorry, there are failures in this process. And they can be reviewed, they can be learned from. We all make mistakes. I hire people, have to let people go. It's not an easy decision. I understand that as a business owner. But you can fix the problem and the processes that happened here. So next time we come, we'd like real transparency and some real answers, not a circular talk on a board posting, a couple hours before we get here. So seriously, take the time as board members. You guys have the power to make a call, bring everybody together. That is your job. Your job is to support the superintendent and vice versa. There's checks and balances here. Employ yourselves. Please, thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanner Skomersky, and I've been in the Columbia lacrosse program since I was a kid. I was made to play lacrosse as a kid. I didn't like it very much until I met those two men over there, and they truly made me want to participate. I felt a part of the team. I've never been a star player or anything like that, but I felt a part of a family at Columbia Lacrosse. And I don't know if they're here, but they have truly changed my life. And I would just like you to reevaluate whatever happened. And that's all.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Simons. My name is Steve Montano. I'm a 30-year town resident, and I reside just a mile or two from Columbia High School. I had, like last 2 weeks ago, some prepared remarks, but I feel that they're not significant and adequate at this point in time. You've heard many, many things in several public forums, okay? Something stinks here, okay? Something isn't right, and everybody can feel it. You know, we've been friendly, Mr. Simons, in meetings, and I respect your management of the district, the funds, you know, the buildings themselves, the capital improvement program. I really respect that, but I am perplexed as to what has happened here. We have two innocent individuals that are paying the price. They didn't make a mistake. People have said mistakes here. They didn't make any mistakes, did they? I haven't heard of a mistake. Nobody that's spoken here has spoken of a mistake. I think the mistake took place with the district, okay? And I'm trying to be constructive and kind of maybe be a little bit of an intermediary in this. I never played lacrosse, never had children in the district, but I'm concerned about education for our children, okay? And I think you all are as well. But again, something isn't right. You know, there's an old saying, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. Something isn't right, and I'm determined to get to the bottom of it. If ever there was a time, now is the time for an independent external audit of what took place here. These gentlemen have been slandered and mischaracterized, and I'm going to give you a little anecdote about a gentleman I met after the last meeting in the parking lot. He's from Colorado. He's only been here 2 weeks. He was part of the school board process out in Colorado and decided to come and attend this meeting. He was one of the 3 or 4 of us that stayed to the end of the meeting. He was perplexed as well. What happened? What went on? At first he said, wow, you got an active community. A lot of people showed up. Then he realized that there was some turmoil here. He walked away wondering if something much more serious than what happened apparently here took place, okay? I don't see any way that you can ignore this. I don't see any way you can ignore this public outcry to keep these 2 gentlemen, satisfy this team, and make this community whole again. It's not too late. You know, I read this letter just a few minutes ago when it was released, excuse me on that, and it references some things that are also kind of confusing and not very clear. And I know from your words that you want to be clear and be transparent. First of all, 6 times in this letter, it references a decision. Doesn't say what the decision is, just says a decision. Could be to give them a raise, could be to fire them, could be to enhance the program. What is the decision? I think we deserve that in a letter that's released to the public. It also mentions alignment with the district's mission. Okay, I'm sure it's written down somewhere, but what is the district's mission, and how does this action further the district's mission? I'm asking that question, and I wish there was an opportunity to get some answers. What is everybody missing here? Why is everybody not aware of what happened internally, okay? I wish we knew, and like I said, I'm determined to get to the bottom of it. Did anybody see the Channel 6 news after the meeting 2 weeks ago? Okay, wasn't very positive about East Greenbush and the lacrosse team and their commitment to a sports program, was it? I don't think so. Did anybody come away thinking that was a positive story? There'll probably be more of them, because this is not done. This is an ongoing process that needs to be, the course needs to be changed, okay? Now, I know you've dug your heels in, some of you, not all of you, and you're determined to eliminate these 2 gentlemen, as fine as they are, and as many kudos as they've gotten from youth, from seniors, from parents. I just see a bunch of faces. I don't see any concern. I hear a little bit of concern. I hear a lot of fun words. You know, it's difficult and all that, but I don't see any action, okay? And I'm really concerned about what happened here. And, you know, I've done some research on my own, and, you know, a lot of people know already some things, but like I said, I'm determined to find out what happened. And I hope that this is not just an independent or an in-house investigation, but that this investigation is more robust and involves people that aren't vested in this process. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Christine, I live in Wyattskill. I'm not from here. My husband and I moved here in 2015. He was transferred for work. We had 2 young kids at the time. And as they grew up, I played lacrosse for high school in Maryland. My husband also played in New Hampshire. We love the sport. We know the thrill of it. We know how it enables kids to be a team and to be so many other things. My son started, normal baseball, go through, try everything. And that was, whoever plays baseball, I don't have anything against baseball, but I was about ready to fall asleep. And I said to my son, I said, just try this. I happened to come across someone that said, try the Columbia lacrosse program. I said, okay, I'm gonna try it. Of course, the kicking and screaming from my son. I said, just try it, da, 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 da. After one time doing the program, this is great, this is amazing. I'm like, yeah, I know. And since then, they've been doing lacrosse. Both, they're 13 and a half. He actually aged out, unfortunately. And my youngest, who is 10, who deals with Coach Andy and Coach Alex and Coach Keller when it's in that age bracket, but have been nothing but successful. Nothing but successful. Have had friends, met new friends, and have really been able to spread their wings. Now, I don't see how you can say this isn't the benefit for the kids. How is strong leadership and community building and a team here that's sitting here backing their coaches, how, by destroying this program, how is that good? Now, these poor kids, and I give you guys kudos up the wazoo for being here and supporting your coach, because you've just stepped into the first step of being a leader and standing for what you believe in. And I also give you great sympathy for everything you've gone through during COVID and having to attempt to be students during that time frame. Now, I didn't like the way this district dealt with that situation. Therefore, I pulled my kid and they went to St. Jude, and my oldest is in LaSalle right now, where it's not about me, it's about we, is their motto. Now, I know when Columbia came to play LaSalle, my oldest son was at the game. I said, did you see Coach Keller? He goes, yep. Did you say hi? I said, yep. And that interaction, no matter where they were, whether it was going to be here at Columbia or LaSalle, there was always that support, that happy smile. And I just think this is the biggest political hit job I've ever seen in my life. And shame on you for thinking this is acceptable. Really, this is what's going on across the nation right now. When are we going to take care of our kids and really back them and give them the people they need and the leadership they need? Why would we possibly get rid of these people? Explain that to me. This lacrosse program is amazing, and you have more people that show up to this meeting to back them. I think it's absolutely disgusting what's happening here. I look at the original email and it blows my mind that we moved to this area to have and deal with this situation. I think shame on you for some of you that think this process went cleanly, that the right decision was made. I give kudos to those who actually have enough courage to stand up and admit their true feelings and back it. If you care anything about the kids in this community, you will give transparency to the tax-paying citizens on how this decision was done, the departments that failed, and reinstate the contract with these two. Thank you.
Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Temple. Despite the fact that most of you are disappointed by the decision that was made, frustrated to some degree by the lack of information that you're able to receive, I do want to make a point and be as clear as I can regarding it. The Board of Education and I are bound by the law. We cannot share information related to individual employees of the district. We can't share information regarding the district's investigation of particular issues that involve our employees. And so you leave here with a sense of frustration, but please know that the Board of Education did its due diligence in reviewing all of these matters. You may disagree with the decision, you may disagree with the outcome, but the fact of the matter is that the Board of Education and I would be breaking the law. An individual employee can come up here on the microphone and say, I give you permission to share everything that went on with a particular situation, and we still, even with that, cannot share certain information. So the district reviewed the matter. The board demanded of the district's administration a thorough and fair review of what went on. You have asked me through the emails as well as the board for more information regarding the situation, but the district and the board is bound by the law and cannot share that information with you. And that has contributed to some of your frustration, that has contributed to your anger, and that has contributed to the many questions that you have asked. But the board is bound by the law, I am bound by the law to protect the confidentiality of these types of matters. And to do otherwise would be to break the law. So we will not be able to answer many of the questions that you have asked. As far as moving forward, some of you have suggested that we take a look at our systems. We are doing that, and when those systems are evaluated and reviewed and we feel that that information meets the demands and the concerns of the board and the administration, we will gladly share those plans with you. And we will let you know when those plans are scheduled on the public agenda. But as far as the individuals that are involved in this matter, the board is not at liberty to share this information with you, nor am I.
We're going to keep the public forum in order.
As far as my response is, the matter is closed.
My name is Tom King, lifelong resident of East Greenbush. And how do you do a comprehensive inquiry of the situation if you did not call Mr. Keller and Mr. Sherwin in and talk to them about it? You failed us.
Again,
I know you can't answer it, but you failed us.
Thank you.
All of you, except a couple.
Thank you.
Who's that one?
Should be the last speaker.
Whew, what a mess. My name is Joshua Seeley. I'm a lifelong resident of East Greenbush, New York. I'm an alumni of Columbia. My wife also went to Columbia. Both of my kids go to the East Greenbush schools and they play lacrosse for the Columbia Youth Program. I do want to thank the brave members of the board who stood up tonight for justice, for truth, and for what's right. It's not always easy to have a backbone, especially when you're on such a tight-knit board where the culture could be to protect one another. You've really done the right thing tonight, so we commend you and we appreciate you, and we ask you not to let up and to continue to advocate on our behalf. I'd also like to thank the athletes. I was a little bit terrified of standing up in front of an auditorium tonight, but you guys did a fantastic job, so if you can handle it. You know, thank you to the parents, thank you to the kids. I'm only up here because it sounded like were we wrapping up? It sounded like we were gonna move on. And we're not ready to move on. We're not ready to accept closure. And I know, Mr. Superintendent, you've just said this is a closed matter, but we beg to differ. You know, we hear these words tonight. We keep hearing these words, leadership. Right away, I think of Greg and John. Change. You know, change is not only good, but it's inevitable, but we're not ready for the change. We're on the upswing. We're on the building. You know, you go to these other lacrosse tournaments in other communities and they say, wow, you're here from Columbia? Ugh. They're nervous because we're on the upswing. Transparency. You know, where's the transparency? You know, we understand that you can't give us information in this forum. That makes sense. You can't just speak freely to an auditorium full of people that are concerned. But where's the accountability? Where is the information, and how do we get that? I hear about investigative interviews where disciplinary action was obviously expected. 2 people were removed from their positions. Were they offered due process? Were they offered the opportunity of representation? Were they told that the results of your answers could result in you losing your job? A formal adverse action. I probably should have asked them that question before I posed it to you, but it seems like they ought to have been. In the federal government, we call those Weingarten rights. You can't just grill somebody without letting them know they have the right to a representative. I wonder if that happened. I think about the law, and I think about what was violated, and I think about ethics, and I think about injustice. But I can't do this, you know, every other Wednesday. I'm hungry. I got to go to the bathroom. I don't know what my kids are doing right now, but I'll keep coming back every Wednesday. And this isn't enough. We shrunk a little bit. So next time we're coming back louder. We're coming back stronger. We're all bringing our kids. But I can't go home like this, because I go home anxious. I go home irritated. I go home angry. And I believe in all of you. My wife and I have supported the board and your decisions, and Mr. Superintendent, everything that you've done, especially since the pandemic and beyond. We support this district. We love this district. We're passionate. We're proud, excuse me. So we have to have some good news. The good news is it is not too late. The future of Columbia lacrosse is bright. You should see our kids in the 3rd grade. I'm looking at one of the coaches. You should see his son. Wait till you see these guys when they get to the high school level. As a taxpayer and as a parent, and I have questions, you can't share this information. We get it. But what's that acronym? FOIA, Freedom of Information Act? I wonder if we all should submit a FOIA request tomorrow morning. Maybe as a formal request, we can get some answers. You know, time and again, you keep saying this decision-making body, and we respect you. We can't fathom or even begin to understand the process that the board has to go through to do the right thing for our children. And we appreciate you. And that is why we're all here tonight, because we support you and we know that you can do the right thing. But you're just 10 people, 9 plus 1. I think you're all elected. The 9 board members are an elected position. I think we'll remember who supports us, who supports the community. You're 10 people. Maybe you're 20 people. We represent thousands of people. We represent the students, the players, the coaches, the parents, the concerned citizens. I have to have some good news other than the fact that the Columbia lacrosse program is doing great under these guys and their leadership. The good news is we can all move on. It's not too late. The best thing about—
Just as a warning, you're approaching your time limit.
That's okay. You can grab the hook. I'll be done in 30 seconds. The best thing about lacrosse is if you make a mistake, you can correct it right away. You drop a pass, you can pick it up, and you can score a goal. It's not like other sports where you might, strike out and spend the rest of the day hoping you get a chance. You guys have a chance to make a right. You don't have to be our adversaries. We support you. We don't have to have this combative relationship. You have the opportunity to be on our team. You have the opportunity to save the day, to be our adversaries. Let's get back to business as usual. It's not too late to do the right thing. A wise man, I'll leave you with a quote because I'm a cornball, and I'll leave you with a quote. A wise man, Mr. Superintendent, I'm looking at you, changes his mind sometimes, but a fool never. To change your mind is the best evidence that you have one. So please reinstate Greg Sherwin and John Keller today, or let them reapply. You won't find anybody better for the job. And if everybody could just stand and clap as loud as you can for John Keller and Greg Sherwin. And just know it's never too late to correct something that was wrong. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Moving on to the capital project planning. Give everyone a moment to clear out. All right, Mr. Simons with capital project planning.
So we did have a meeting of our capital project steering committee, and the board was represented by Mr. Temple and Mr. Buno at that meeting. It's an opportunity for the board members to receive reports from myself, Jennifer Mulligan, and Paul Bickle, and our district's architect and construction management firm regarding the progress on our capital project, which was approved last May. The board received information on factors and consideration regarding the Columbia roof, replacing that roof, including some of the ventilation in the roof that needs to be replaced, as well as the board had an opportunity to see a schematic of the redesign of the new tennis courts as well as the basketball courts. Additionally, updates were provided to the board and the committee regarding considerations regarding the location of the fields behind Goff Middle School, including a repositioning of the location of the baseball field to be considerate of wetlands considerations from the Army Corps of Engineers. Actually, the design was reworked by the district's appointed site architect and in consultation with the athletic department, where it actually works much better and avoids some of the encroachment on the wetlands. At a future meeting, the board will see that schematic. Additionally, Helen Squatchy, the Red Mill principal, attended the meeting. We spoke about the library upgrades. There were meetings held on September 12th and September 13th with the library media specialists to capture their input into the design process with our district's architect. We talked about the HVAC and the air conditioning project and how that will proceed, as well as some safety and security upgrades, including removals of certain materials within the building to improve our ability to be safe. And we also talked about the playground and the site work at Red Mill. So it was a good, productive meeting. The district is continuing to prepare information for future presentations to the board. That concludes my report.
Mr. Simons, I just have one question. Can you remind, and you may have already asked or said it, what the time frame is for for 1 and B, A or A and B? And also, I just kind of want to make note that obviously my area is by the middle school, and there has been a lot of concerns on the other side of Hayes that we're not going to damage that property, which we've talked about. So I'm pretty comfortable that the architect knows that, like, yes, there's wetlands on one side. Let's not make problems for the residents on the other side. But I just kind of want to make that known so we remember that process,
right.
Remember that decision.
Based on the design of the work, including the water retention system, stormwater management system that's being in place, there should be no issues with any neighbors.
Thank you.
And additionally, there is a water retention pond as part of the design,
Okay.
as well as some improvements to the overall drainage of the rainwater that runs onto the property. You may remember we had a flood, but the water is not being directed in that way.
Okay.
It's being directed towards the wetlands, as
And
I
the
understand it.
time frame for each of those areas?
I might need Jen Mulligan's help with this. I can tell you that Phase 1A has been submitted to the State Education Department. We hope to have it approved to begin the bidding and the construction this spring. As far as the timeline for Phase 2, I'm going to turn it to Jen.
Yeah, so phase 1A, if the SED approval comes in, when we're expecting, construction would be in the timeframe of May 2025 through October of 2026. Phase 1B, which is the golf athletic fields and the elevator for the interior work, that is slated for construction in October of 25 through September of 26. Phase 2, which would be the golf library renovation and Red Mill renovation, would be February 2026 through December 2027, based on the timelines we have today.
Great, thank you.
Before we move on, can I also ask a question about the golf fields, 3 Phase B? It says, are we checking with the town, or are we following up on points of entry to schools? Because I know that an access road is being put in, and I know that certain speed limits apply around school areas. Now that we'll have more activity on Hayes, I wonder about, are we communicating with the town about those changes, and if the speed limit or posted area will change, and also if we're gonna have kids on that road walking. I think it's a highly trafficked area, and so I ask that we also look into that, or the appropriate channels. I admittedly know nothing about it. I also know that we're thinking about relocating an old sign over to that, so if that's now gonna be a point of entry, can we look at the safety and the concerns there? And, as Michelle said, there's, neighborhoods around there. So if children then are going to be walking down the road and using that as an access to the school, I think we need to be very mindful about their safety around that.
In the initial design of the project, we did include conversations with the town, but not specific to the issues that you've raised. So we will, as we get closer to the actual design. Right now, we just have schematics. We will definitely coordinate with the town regarding safety of both students and vehicles.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And perhaps this is out of scope, so, we don't have to talk about it. But I notice in other areas, there's flashing, like when schools are in session and there's flashing lights, and then the speed limit is like that. Around golf, it's not like that. I don't necessarily recall around all the other schools, but I'm wondering if that's something we could tack on or potentially explore as well, around for the speed limits around that area.
We will look into that.
Thank you.
Any more comments or questions? All right, moving on to proposed change in policy, first reading of policy of student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention.
This policy was reviewed by the Board Policy Committee, which was attended by our attorney, Michael Dodd. The changes to this policy relate to removing language that is already included in our code of conduct to avoid duplication between the DASA policy, which is what this is, Dignity for All Students Act policy, and the code of conduct. The attorney recommended, because we had done such a thorough review of the code of conduct last year, that this language should be eliminated, because typically we'd review the code of conduct on a regular basis, but not having to go back and change 2 policies every time we make a change. So it's basically pulled language out of the policy that's already included, identical language that's in the code of conduct.
Any questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Simons. Just scroll up here and find. All right, so moving on to monthly budget reports, overview.
So we've had some conversations with the board over the last few years regarding providing the board with more detailed information regarding how the budget is proceeding and the community during the school year. So starting with this meeting, once a month, not at every meeting, per month, Jennifer Mulligan, our Director of Business and Finance, will be providing 3 additional reports. A budget status report that provides the board with a snapshot in time as to how we're doing in each of the categories of expenditure. lined up with the budget codes that you see in the original budget that was passed. A revenue status report to give the board more information regarding the status of our state aid, our taxes, and pilot payments and those things that are coming in the revenue. And then the third report is related to budget transfers that occurred during the year. So Jen did a quick tutorial to explain what these reports are, and later on in the agenda, you're being asked to accept the reports. You're not technically you're approving those legally, you're just accepting them that you reviewed them. So I'll turn it over to Jen.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind if I sit here?
That's fine.
Okay, just in spirit of time. So I just wanted to give an overview of what you're going to be seeing in these monthly reports. First, just a quick recap on just our overall revenues in terms of where the majority of our revenue comes from. So 53% of our revenue is from property taxes, and our state aid compromises close to 33% of our revenue source. So our property tax collection period is September 9th through October 9th without penalty. So when you're looking at a revenue status report, you're not going to see revenues coming in quite yet, because the reports that are on tonight are through July 31st. So we only have 1 month of the fiscal year. Also, I provide a little guidance on our state aid payment schedule and how that is collected over the course of the year. So hopefully this little bit of information is informative as you see these reports throughout the year. This is the revenue status report. You will notice that in our budget packets, the accounts, there's several more accounts listed in our budget packet. The reports that you'll receive on a monthly basis are slightly summarized. I think that is definitely more useful to be able to review and evaluate as in more summarized records. So up in the green at the top here is just the reflective of what the period date is. So this report is through 7/31. Over to the left, and the revenue code is highlighted. So those are the revenue categories. This original estimate is the adopted budget, with our total adopted budget voter approved at the $111 million. So you'll see that consistently, that column is reflected of the voter approved budget. These are our operating revenues. So when we talk about real property taxes, state aid, federal aid, interest, investment earnings, charges for certain services, those are our operating revenues. That's actually cash coming in the door. So that is supporting our budget. And then we have one more item that actually balances our budget, which is our appropriated fund balance and reserves. So this is where we're using savings that the district has accumulated. At the last meeting, we talked about the 4% limit of the unassigned fund balance. That is partially being appropriated in next year's budget. And then we also have some appropriated reserves here. So when you take our operating revenues and our reserves, that is balancing the budget for 24-25. This column represents budget adjustments. Budget adjustments, typically you have an adopted budget, right? So why would your budget increase? There's a couple of reasons why that would happen. In governmental accounting, there's this concept of encumbrances, which are basically outstanding purchase orders from the prior year budget. So any commitments the district has made in the previous year, those are carried over into the next year. So it's basically reserving a portion of the prior year budget and bringing it into the new year budget. The other piece is our bus purchase reserve, which is approved by the voters. So that ends up increasing the budget with the support of the bus purchase reserve and state aid to support those expenditures. So then this third column ends up being your revised budget, basically the adopted budget plus any adjustments to equal the revised budget. The year-to-date column is the revenues received year-to-date. And the anticipated balance of the remaining revenues expected to be received. And then the final column all the way to the right is the excess revenue. So this would show areas where there might be reasons we don't budget for certain revenues because they're not necessarily always anticipated. So that may show excess revenue, or for some reason an estimate did not come in as planned. We may see some differences there as well. The next section is the actual budget status report, so we just talked about revenues, and now this is the appropriations and the expenditure side. So this is just a little picture of where our major expenditures are. Salaries comprise 50% of our overall budget. Employee benefits is close to 27%. So when you really look at our overall budget, 80% of it is comprised of salaries and benefits. This is just a total page of what the budget status report is, because the budget status report, you'll notice, is probably about 8 pages long. Here again, the as of date is July 31st. We have the initial appropriation is the adopted budget, which you'll see that same $111 million from the revenue. So those will balance out to each other. These adjustments are the same adjustments we saw on the revenue side. And then we have our revised budget. So we have on our appropriation side and our revenue side, the budget is matching on each end. The year-to-date expenditures is the expenditures incurred. And the encumbrances outstanding are the committed salaries and benefits that have not been paid. And any outstanding purchase orders currently recognized in the books. The final column is the unencumbered balance, which is the remaining unspent uncommitted budget. This isn't a projection, this is just what's uncommitted. A couple of examples of why this might be $24 million at this point in time. We haven't established purchase orders for the BOCES bill yet. That usually comes in September, and that will be put up on the books. So that's about $7 million. We have a lot of hourly transactions that don't actually get encumbered, so they become expended as we go. That's another $7 million, and then there's other various things that happen throughout the year. This is a part of a page, one of the pages of the budget status report that just shows the various function areas. So you'll see categories. For example, here the 2110 is the teaching regular school. So this is the function. You'll see these functions, these programmatic areas throughout the budget report. And then underneath that, you'll see the object of expenditure. So whether it's salaries, materials and supplies, tuition, textbooks, or BOCES services. The last report that you'll see is a budget transfer report. So I did outline it. Budget transfers are just reclassifying the budget between lines, okay? But I did put a little information just about that talks about the budget increases, just to provide a little bit of context that, you know, we aren't able to increase the budget. So you'll see we have donations that we receive. You'll see that in your consent agenda on a quite regular basis. Those are items that can increase the budget. There could be other budget appropriation letters that come about because we had property damage and we received insurance proceeds, and as a result have to expend money for that. So that might be a reason that increases the budget.
Ms. Mulligan, I got a question.
Sure.
Is the purpose of these reports not just to create an overview of like the revenue appropriation activity, but also to kind of inform us about how the finance office performs some of this? I'm just wondering, like from a broad level, like what's the intention of these reports is what I'm wondering.
The intention of these reports is to provide transparency, to provide the board with the ability to oversee where the budget, how the budget is performing at a given point in time. So it's allows you to monitor to see what the monthly expenditures are, what the monthly revenues are, and where we're at in terms of remaining balances. So it's just to provide information about where the district is at on a given month.
Thank you, Ms. Mulligan.
So, clarifying question, will this be emailed to us or is this going to be on a board agenda moving forward?
It's on the board agenda. So on the consent agenda tonight is included the July reports.
Okay.
Related to that, this is really helpful and thank you for doing this. I wonder if it would be appropriate or if, you know, it's just something for consideration of some kind of like a summary slide of just like a general, from your expert opinion, like, are we on track? How are we doing? I think that might be helpful, especially if it's going to be part of the agenda and available to the public to just help sort of frame thinking for people, members of our community who are not as skilled in government finance as you.
Yes. Yeah, there will be periodic times in terms of like providing an actual like projection of where we stand today. There's a lot of moving parts that occur at the beginning of a fiscal year. We're looking at, you know, how are the staff classified? So, you know, there's a lot of moving parts right now. The one thing, usually by mid-year, and actually Mr. Simons and I had discussed in terms of making sure that there's projections available, to inform the budget process, that will happen later in the year. We can look at providing some more context, perhaps maybe not on a monthly basis, but maybe on some sort of interim basis.
That makes a lot of sense,
We can look
yeah.
at that. Formally, we're expecting to have a more formal projection towards the January time frame, so we're halfway through the fiscal year looking. If we looked at how we're performing now, I don't think it would be an accurate depiction. There's just a lot of moving parts right at the moment.
Now, I just want to dig in a little bit, Ms. Phillips. Are you thinking of like a snapshot, dashboard oriented type? Like I'm just wondering, like when you say a summary, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it could be both. I mean, I think Ms. Mulligan's the, sort of the expert here, but I think maybe a dashboard of just even kind of comparison, like sort of this is tracking where we are typically in kind of comparable fiscal years. But I also think even maybe a qualitative, statement or just like a summary of very high level bullets, right? Just to sort of like this, we're on track. This is all anticipated. That might be helpful if we feel comfortable, but, I understand the,
yes,
sort of some of the qualitative to the
absolutely.
quantitative is sometimes a little challenging, but
And I think that that's really imperative too, when we think about the state aid piece and that, we know that the feedback happened for the equation, and I don't know the technical terms for it, but considering that we're not sure where we stood and how that, turned out for this past budget cycle and making informed decisions, I think that would be really helpful in understanding in that snapshot with the state aid and where that is as well.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that more, explicitly, because just as a quick example, like right now, we're in the process of filing a lot of our 23-24 claim reports, which that will generate information into the state budget process.
Right.
So even we had state aid projections that were part of the 24-25 budget. Those were just projections. We'll have more finalized information sometime, even not until November or December, to say how close are those to where we thought they were based on what the state told us, and then how we budgeted for those items. So there's going to be certain things that are not fully available to us until certain points in time of the year. But as soon as that comes about and there's something that we can share that is more, concrete as to we have more knowledge of, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, that's great.
So there is a board policy regarding budget transfers. So I wanted to share what that is, because one of the things in the budget transfer policy is that it provides where the board will need to approve any budget transfers in excess of a certain threshold. So there's transfers that happen on a regular basis, and one of the reports would be just to inform you of what transfers had taken place since the last time. And if there was a specific transfer that we had to make that was going to be in excess of that $279,000 threshold for 24-25, that would be put up as a separate resolution to approve. And this is what the budget transfer report will look like. It will basically show your budget accounts. It will also show the amount transferred from and transferred to. So if there's any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Moving on to discussion items, Community Engagement Board operating procedures to onboard new board members. Mr. Simons?
Yes, the board held a retreat in the first week of September and identified some changes that they would like to see happen in terms of the board processes and the district processes. And we agreed that we would form some subcommittees of the board, ad hoc committees related to community engagement, board operating procedures, and the orientation or onboarding process for new board members, as well as the goals. So I sent something in the board update of those board members that indicated interest in each area. We have several individuals who want on the board who want to be involved in community engagement, which constitutes a quorum of the board. So I'm asking for some consideration. If anyone was interested in doing that, if you would be interested in shifting to the onboarding of new board members, because we only have one person interested in doing that. So you don't necessarily have to answer that tonight. If you want to, that would be great.
I would say, I'm happy to help out on whatever committee. I'm just considering the onboarding, it's already a new member who's interested in it. I'm just not sure how many new members would, like, if that's useful for it to all be new members on that particular committee.
I'm really interested in just reducing from 5, I think it might even be 6 to 4.
Feel free to shift me to anywhere else
Okay.
that you need to.
I don't recall which ones I volunteered for. I don't know if I'm on the list, but you can take me off if I am. I was wondering too, where are we with the board operating procedure? Are we all set with that number? I do want to make sure I follow that closely. Also,
If you give me a second, I will look up in my update
we could also discuss later.
the information. I can do it. I can probably do it quickly. Here we go. The community engagement survey had Mr. Temple, Ms. Steinbeck, Ms. O'Brien, Ms. Van Orten, Ms. Turner, and Ms. Skaversky. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The board. 5, 6 members.
You can
on that
remove
committee.
me from the community
So we're down to
engagement.
5. Thank you, Mr. Temple.
You could shift me to the onboarding new members if you need that filled.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. All right, I think that fixes our problem. So I will send a confirmation out to everybody and also begin the process of setting some dates.
And
Thank you.
and Jeff, do you think these will be at night? Because I know it was. a
Yeah, that's what I was
camp,
gonna
you
say.
know.
Put me wherever you need me. I just
But
can't meet
will
till
some of
like
these
5
be
or
able to be
later.
held at night a little bit because for the folks?
We'll
that
hold them in
work?
the evening and they'll be short-lived. It's not something that you're going to commit to for the whole year. Once some decisions are made, we'll bring draft decisions back to the board. That's why they're going to be ad hoc. They're not going to be standing committees unless you decided that you wanted to do that. I think the community engagement survey may take a little longer than the others.
And I know I wrote this in an email request, but if we could utilize virtual as well or calls, I think it would be most appreciative
Be happy
from
to
a
do
lot
that.
of members.
Very good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. And I do think it's great to have a large number of board members underneath the quorum so we get a wide representation of what is reflected from board sentiment. I think that's important. So I think we could be confident that our community engagement plan will reflect the board sentiment.
Thank you.
Moving on to the 2024-2025 district goals format draft, Mr. Simons.
So I shared this with board president and board vice president at our meeting and decided to put it on the agenda for further feedback. Mr. Stiles has put together a draft of a template. The board had discussions of having the community engagement survey drive some of the more long-term goals, but that we needed to have some immediate goals for this year. So we've categorized it into the same broad areas that you've been focused on: future-driven education, whole learner focus, and safe and inclusive and diverse schools. I'll ask Mr. Stiles to talk a little bit about the action steps and the measurable indicators, because I know the board had a discussion about making sure that we can measure what we say we're going to do.
Thanks, Mr. Simons. So when I designed this, and I know there's, kind of that short-term vision for goals and then moving to, a longer-term vision. So trying to, for this year, be consistent with our goals that we've had for the last 2 years around that future-driven education, whole learner focus, and safe, inclusive, and diverse. And then as opposed to, underneath that, this past year, we kind of had I don't want to say more goals, but it was like bullet points that seemed like it was another set of goals. So, really just trying to look at under each of those 3 areas, have us look at a couple of action steps that we want to focus on, but then on top of that, something newer would be attached with those action steps would be some measurable indicators. I don't think there needs to necessarily be one measurable indicator per action step. It could be multiple, indicators under an action step. But, just trying to, minimize it a little bit was something that came out of, one of our last discussions. So just, Here on the draft, I put, kind of 3 action steps per each. I don't think it necessarily needs to be 3. I think if one of them is a larger overarching, I know portrait of a graduate, I would anticipate being a pretty large action step in here. Just, I guess, wanted to get feedback before we, move forward with this, process, that everyone's comfortable. I think we would anticipate coming back, Mr. Simons, with some actual action steps and measurable indicators for review from the board.
Our plan was to consider some of the discussions. We actually reviewed the minutes of the notes of the previous board meeting that we had when we discussed the goals, to take a pass at a draft in terms of recommending the action steps and the measurable indicators, and work with the subgroup of the board on any further input, and then bring it back to the full board. That was our planning process.
Should there, yeah.
I like, yeah, that's what I like. I like it's concise.
The board had conversations about limiting the goals. We had, I think, I don't know, it was 14 or something of last year. So we were thinking to try to limit it to 2 in each area for this year.
2 or 3, yeah, absolutely.
I'm wondering, I'm just wondering, like, so when we say like future-driven education, and then it says provide innovative curriculum, differentiated instructional programs, and modern school facilities. Like, so in my mind, I'm thinking like, and I'm just wondering if I'm correct to think so, that this goal would be targeting innovative, okay.
Yeah, so I look at it as, just like Jesse said, that providing innovative curriculum, differentiated instruction programs, that's the goal. And then, underneath that would be some action steps with measurable indicators for the goal. I think for this year, I believed it would have been too drastic of a change to, really change those goals to be measurables, because our goals over the last few years have been a little bit of that broader sense. So keeping those for this year, but then having more measurable action steps.
Okay, and I would wonder, like, according to that, like, like as a measurement, what I would wonder then is today, and not to, but like what I would wonder is then today, how innovative is our curriculum? How differentiated is our instructional programs, that as we think about the goals? And I'm just wondering just how to build this out to kind of, consider. So when we say an action step, from today forward, or is it even to establish those? And I know we kind of flesh it out more,
Right.
but that's kind of the thinking,
Like,
yeah.
For example, one of the things, and I think it depends on how many different types of action steps you want to have. You could do a review of the curriculum areas and determine, we generally do a review through the program reviews, but you could determine a curriculum view that focuses on the portrait of a graduate skills, and defining those as your measure of innovation. Are we preparing do we find areas within our curriculum that we need to address that don't capture those portrait of a graduate skills? You could look at practices related to individualizing student learning for kids and those kinds of things as part of that curriculum review. You could also build that into the program reviews as a requirement for some of the reports that come to you, to identify some of the components to ensure that those components are differentiated instruction, innovative curriculum, and programs. And then we definitely have the capital project in place to look at the innovation and the modernization of our facilities. So
Thank you, Mr. Simon.
Capturing somewhat of a baseline of information for this year.
That sounds excellent. And I just want to just say one more thing, and I don't mean to linger on too much. But I also think about, like, when I think about differentiated instruction and innovative curriculum, not just how innovative, but also the effectiveness. So when I think of like multiple measures, I think not just, if we're achieving the goal, but also, efficiency, effectiveness, in the pursuit of that. So just as we,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm hearing the board is comfortable with the format, and we'll do a little bit more work on it, and we'll bring it to the ad hoc committee.
I think I jumped the gun a little bit on that, right?
Okay, that's okay. Give me some things to think about.
Yeah, And just one other comment. We talk about Portrait of a Graduate a lot, and I wonder if it's actually maybe something that's sort of like the sort of goal or cross-cutting. And if we look at what we mean by Portrait of a Graduate and kind of use this interim year of goals to just help us kind of advance that and kind of use that as the goal versus having it be in like curriculum alignment for Portrait of a Graduate.
Right.
I don't know, maybe we're saying the same thing, but.
You're talking about having Portrait of a Graduate be a common thread that would run across
Right, and
all
like
three
how,
of these
if
areas.
that's what we're,
Yeah, I
sort
think
of
that
we're
works well.
striving,
I like
yeah,
it too. Yeah.
that, okay, maybe I think we said the same thing, but perfect.
I feel like when I think about Portrait of a Graduate and what I think short-term this year, I feel like, and I know we've talked about this, before, is that I think, most concerned with the implementation right now. How are we going to implement it? How are we getting people on board? What are we doing for that stakeholder buy-in? And I think, when I think about how you would tie in Portrait of a Graduate for this school year, I think I'm most interested in knowing, now that we have established what they are, what those parameters are, and they've been communicated with staff and faculty, my next question is, okay, but what are we doing to implement them? Or how are we creating buy-in? And so when I think about Portrait of a Graduate, as a board member, one of the things that I'm interested in is how is it being implemented and how's it going? I don't think like we're gonna reap any benefits. Maybe that's negative to say or pessimistic, but to me, I would want to see it included in future-driven education, and we're developing an action plan for how to implement Portrait of a Graduate. And our measurable indicator would be, did we achieve all we said we were going to do in the implementation plan? And that's how I would hold,
We're seeing it exactly the same way. And I'll let Roy talk about that because
Yeah.
we've had conversations this week about it.
Sure. So our plan was to utilize the education committee to be the group to create that plan for the Portrait of a Graduate in terms of, kind of roll out next steps. I envision, through the education committee, probably having like what's a 3-year plan? What are going to be the focus areas for the Portrait of a Graduate? Year 1, what does success look like? Year 2, then how do we build on that? And then success, and so on. So the first education committee meeting is actually October 7th, if I remember correctly. So information will be coming out soon for the members. I know we do have 1 or 2 board members, I believe, that are on the education committee that will be part of that. And I actually sent an email out earlier today to our content coordinators and department chairs to see, who would be able to be part of it from there. So we do have I think we'll have a really good group that will have, some families on it as well, some students that will be on that as well too. And that's really our goal for the education committee this year, is to create that Portrait of a Graduate action plan.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you, Mr. Stiles. Moving on to approval of programs for resident children with disabilities. Are there any questions or comments about this agenda item? Is there a motion to approve? Ms. Komersky, is there a second? Ms. Steinbeck, is all in favor? All are in favor? Motion approved. Moving on to transportation contract for MVA. I'm just curious, the acronym MVA.
That's the McKinney-Vento federal law that requires school districts to provide educational and transportation services for students who are considered to be homeless. We have situations where students are resident districts, and through no fault of their own, there's a situation that results in them having to move outside the boundaries of the district. There's a homeless students policy that requires the district to review the situation, and if in the event that we determine that in accordance with federal and state regulations, the student is in fact homeless, not living in a fixed permanent residence, they're entitled to come to school either here or at the district where they now live. And if they choose the district of origin, which would be East Greenbush, we have to bus them from outside the boundaries of the district by federal law. Last year, we approved a similar contract. We anticipated approving it again this year. The needs are continuing to grow in this area. And so we generally go to our own transportation first, but if there isn't a route that goes that way or a driver assigned to that route, we have to use this private transportation on a limited basis for those situations. So we could have someone living in Saratoga County or Schenectady County that was once a resident here, became homeless, we have to go get them, bring them to school, and then we have to return them under the federal law. We are reimbursed for the transportation costs from the state, but this is an additional support that we need to meet that mandate and make sure the kids' continuity of education is continued.
So this might be a question for Jennifer. How much did we spend on this last year, or can we get that data of how much was spent?
Yeah, I do not have that available right here, but I can look it up
You know,
and find out.
I know we're better on our bus driver, so, if we can take this in-house and save money, we should be, and I'm sure we are doing that analysis, but I just want to make sure we are. And then the other thing is, it's a pretty long contract, it's 5 years. I would like to consider rebidding, doing another rebid before 5 years. That's a long time to have with one person without doing another RFI. So if we could at least consider that, or our RFP, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but at least consider that. I think we just want to make sure we're feasible in terms of staying with them versus somebody else.
So it allows for 1-year contract renewals, but then does that mean year after year we're selecting them again?
So the
or-
contract would be approved on an annual basis. The RFP is available. In other words, it was good for 5 years.
Right.
We can always decide to go out to RFP prior to that.
Yep.
I heard there's transportation aid though, is that correct? What was the aid ratio for that? Is that 100%?
66.1%.
So pretty high.
A motion to approve, Mr. Buno. Is there a second? Ms. Steinbeck, all in favor? All are in favor. Motion passes. Moving on to the code of conduct. Mr. Simons, did you?
Yes, just briefly, we did not make any changes or revisions to the code of conduct this year based on the thorough review that was included and done last year. Marissa Cannon informed the Code of Conduct Committee that we would be moving this forward to the board. I don't believe you received any comments or input regarding it.
I did not.
So this is the same code of conduct that was in place last year, which we did do a complete revision of some areas, and the board is required to annually review and approve the code of conduct under SED regulations.
Any questions or comments on this code of conduct? Is there a motion to approve? Ms. Turner, is there a second? Ms. O'Brien, all in favor? All are in favor. Motion passes. Moving on to committee reports. We have the CCS meeting with Mr. Stiles.
Thank you, Mr. Temple. So I'll be pretty brief just to go over some highlights. We had our first meeting of the year on September 11th. We did get just some final information, wrapping up some of our program reviews from last year. Our art department is still finishing up a little bit of work. You will be getting presentations from the mathematics department review in November at the November 6th meeting, and then October 16th will be the social studies presentation on the overview of their program review. For this upcoming year, we have three. We have health, physical education, and school counseling. I meet with those groups, regularly, and I'll be setting up meetings with them soon to, talk about what that program review will look like to start the year. We then, every year, we do get our summer curriculum projects. We have the groups come and give a brief summary on what their projects were. This past year, we had 15 of them, so 8 came to our September meeting. The remaining 7 will be coming to our October meeting on those. Again, the mathematics program review and the social studies program review just needed endorsements for their needs assessments. That was the last step, and then, like I said, they will be coming in October and November regarding that. We did endorse a new title for our 6th grade ELA class. This actually is part of a summer curriculum project that the 6th grade ELA department did. So we brought it to CCS so that we can get that endorsed. I think it's a good addition to that curriculum. I did put on here a brief update from Mr. DiDonato. We had some discussions last year regarding our Calculus AB course. So that's an AP course where students can take Calculus AB is the name of the exam. Up until this point, the students could get, I guess depending on the college they go to and how they score on the AP exam, they can get college credit for that. But it wasn't also attached as a college course. So what we were able to do was work with Hudson Valley, and that course now actually is also a college level course. So, we see that as another benefit for the students. Students can take the AP exam still and get the college credit. It will be a 4-credit class. I think the nice thing when you go through schools such as Hudson Valley, University of Albany, students who go to a SUNY school, those are automatically taken if they receive that college credit. So I thought that was a great addition that Mr. DiDonato came up with.
Mr. Stiles, can I ask a clarification? It's my understanding that by having that same course be an AP course and a dual credit college course, regardless of the score on the exam, if the student passes the class, they can get college credit in many colleges. And so it's a double benefit.
Correct. And I think, as students look at different colleges to go to, each school has their own, acceptance in terms of, especially around the AP courses, sometimes they'll take, if you get a 3, then it will count towards this math class. If you get a 4 or 5, it will then count towards this math class. So this just gives another option, for our students. And then just lastly, just gave a brief overview of our professional development. For this year, something that I did highlight, March 14th will be the Questar Regional Professional Development that we'll be participating in. And then our March 31st, which is a little bit of a change with us only having 2 superintendent's conference days at the beginning of the year, it moved one of those superintendent's days till during the year, which is going to be March 31st.
And I just want to say that was my first curriculum and instruction meeting, and I was really impressed listening to the summer curriculum projects. I remember when I started as a teacher being absolutely overwhelmed. And it wasn't easy to get materials from other teachers, but hearing how many of the departments were working on putting together resources for new teachers to easily access, I just thought that was a fantastic use of that summer curriculum money because it will make it that much easier for new teachers coming into the district to get started, to see how we operate, and to just make that transition easier for them. So I was really happy to see that was a focus in the summer curriculum projects.
Can I ask one question on the calculus? I think we've talked about this before. Potential credits earned from, Hudson Valley or other schools. Often I feel like I remember I did that back when I was in school. You had to pay tuition to that school to receive the credits. Is that process the same? And if so, does the district offer to pay, or I'm just wondering if it's an equitable process.
Sure. So you are correct. You do have to pay. So if you take this course, it is at a reduced rate than if you were to take the course at Hudson Valley, for example. And then if students do qualify for free reduced lunch, then there is a waiver that they can get for that fee.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Ms. Steinbeck, I'm just wondering, with your question, are you thinking about equity for students and access to these programs? And I'm just wondering.
Sure. So if, I'm in an AP class or advanced placement and I want to receive college credit, but I don't have any means to pay for that, then you wouldn't get the college credit. So I want to ensure that even if our student is in that position, what is the district doing to support them in that, educational journey and to receive the same amount of credits as their peer who is in a different financial, socioeconomics?
I know that in addition to the waiver process of the tuition, there are resources that our students have access through the counselor's office to make sure that they can take those courses.
Yeah, and I'll follow up with Mr. Harkin and make sure that in all of those courses that information is knowledgeable for the students so that they know where to go if that's a assistance that they need.
That's great. I think, if it's, students are aware of it, That's important.
And I think if we could make sure that information is available when they register for their courses, because I think we sometimes wait until after they're signed up to share, or after they signed up for the field trip to let them know their support, but they might have not signed up if they didn't think the support was available. So I don't know if that's something, when they pick their courses for the next year, if that's information we could make available at that point in the process.
We'll review that process and we'll report it back to the board.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I also have a quick comment. And it's related to the equity about calculus, also about the supplies Ms. Van Orten was talking about. I know we spoke about teacher supplies, making sure that it's frictionless at the start of the school year, when implementing, revising the list, and thinking about calculus, and also just with the current events, thinking about transparency and how we communicate, that we're trying to move towards like frictionless, equitable, activity. I think is very important, not just, what we do, but also how we do it, saying that, it's available, it's here, we're going to do this, to show that it's frictionless. So I think it's very important just that, when we have these conversations, that we have a path forward, that communicate clearly the action that we're going to take. And I just wanted to share that sentiment.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Mr. Simons for the Health and Safety Committee meeting of September 17th, 2024.
Yes, we had an in-person meeting on September 17th with our Health and Safety Committee. That committee is attended by parents, administrators at each level, elementary, middle, and high school, our school SROs, as well as Craig Hansen and from Questar BOCES, and Lisa Lyons. I chair that meeting, and we reviewed at the meeting all of the tools that the district has available to receive reports from community members, employees, and students regarding any types of threats, ranging from a student overhearing a threat to a social media threat to something that may be being reported and discussed in the community. We have a reporting app called Stop It that we discussed. We do receive these reports through Stop It. I receive them directly myself. Since the beginning of the year, I have received 3 of those reports, which have all been investigated and responded to by administrators. We have a tool called Go Guardian that monitors student behavior on the Chromebooks and their email accounts to make sure that nothing is being looked into that could potentially cause safety concerns for the school. We also often rely on direct reporting from our students and parents. And we have 2 programs through Questar, Safer Schools Together, in which we are able to bring to the attention of a state, actually really a national organization, and receive help in determining the credibility of a threat. And we also receive worrisome online behaviors. So we did this because we wanted to make sure not only that the committee understood the tools that we have, but we are working with students and staff to make sure that we communicate that these types of threats cannot be tolerated in the school district. We're receiving a wider number of these across the state right now. So we've got a good situation in which we're able to respond quickly to those. I know that at the middle school, there was an assembly to inform the students that these kinds of issues are being addressed in the district and investigated. But we reviewed everything that we have available and talked about the coordination of utilizing those resources. I want to report to the board also that we discussed that the new safety plan requirements have been implemented in the district. All faculty and staff have been trained in the safety plans, including the need to make sure that those plans are trauma sensitive, trauma informed. And all of the students have received training at each level with a developmentally appropriate, age-appropriate presentation that was prepared with Mr. Stiles' leadership, the principals, and the SROs, counselors, and social workers. So all of those presentations have been done, and we have started the process of conducting the drills. We also talked about reviewing our safety plans for after-school activities, including athletics. We have had multiple meetings in the last 2 weeks to review and update our plans. Those are similar to the school level plans in which we're not sharing that information. I also have a meeting next week with Suburban Council Superintendents to share information regarding safety plans. And some of this work is being done in response to the situation that happened at Bethlehem High School that involved some Columbia High School students who were there to compete in athletics. So this kind of process is happening across the state. And the Commissioner of Education sent us a memo about 10 days ago reminding us to conduct these reviews, and we had already started that. We emphasized the importance of regional collaboration. We talked about the roles of the SROs, and any information sharing occurred at the end of the meeting. It was a good, productive meeting. I have the minutes are attached to this. If the board has any questions about safety and the safety committee, certainly happy to answer them. We are learning that as we engage with other districts that we are more, we can't always say that we're fully prepared, but we never want to say that. We always want to continue to evaluate what we do, but we are in a better position than a lot of districts regarding our safety planning and the network that we have around us through the Questar BOCES and through our SROs to make sure that we can respond to these kinds of issues.
Thank you for that, Mr. Simons. All right, we have no tabled motions. There is no old business. Is there any items of concern or questions in a consent agenda? Anything we need to pull out or?
I just have one question on letter C. There's a reason that says per employee's request, and then there's another reason that says resignation. What is the difference between those two?
Yeah, that's a great question. The resignation is a contractual employee.
Okay.
And then the per request is a substitute that found, more permanent employment elsewhere, and they've requested to no longer be on that list.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Ms. Turner, is there a second? Ms. Steinbeck, all in favor? Everyone's in favor, motion passes.
Mr. Temple, I want to congratulate Frank Asenbauer. He's been waiting here very patiently with his wife, Megan. Frank is our head groundskeeper. He does a terrific job in the school district, preparing our fields, removing our snow, doing repairs on the grounds, and doing everything he can to make sure that the schools are looking good and safe on the outside, and often helps with things on the inside of the school. So Frank has qualified under civil service to be moved from provisional to permanent status, and we're so happy about that, Frank, and we appreciate everything that you do for the district. So congratulations to you and your family.
And can I just make note and congratulate Ms. Cushing, Kathy Cushing, sorry, from Columbia. I know it's late, I'm already tired. And she's been here a long time that I know of.
Yes.
She's been always very helpful when my 3 kids got sick and wanted to come home. So congratulations, Kathy, and I wish her the best of luck in her retirement.
Awesome. Absolutely. Congratulations to all the employees. Frank, congratulations. That is awesome. All right, moving on, addendum to the agenda. We have a miss.
Thank you, Mr. Temple.
Mrs. Skinner.
We have a school bus driver that has gone through our candidate driver program, and they've passed their DMV license test. And she is excited to start with us tomorrow.
Thank you, Ms. Cannon, and congratulations to our new Miss. Is it Nosh? How do you pronounce it?
Nosh.
Nosh. Thank you.
Do we have to vote on it? We got to vote on that, Jesse.
We have to vote. Yes, awesome. Yeah. All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve this item? Ms. Skomersky, do we have a second? Ms. Van Orton, all in favor? Motion passes. All right, there is no new business, or is there anyone? Moving on to the public forum. Any? Absolutely.
First of all, I just want to, or wish that the amount of people that were here earlier today could see how much work you all put in to keeping this school district running. You know, notwithstanding the issue with lacrosse and the coaches and all that, I've sat through a couple of full meetings and it's really impressive. And unfortunately, most of the people here are getting a sour taste about what you guys do, all of you together. So I wish they were here to see this. It's a huge agenda. It's a lot of involved and complicated issues that you deal with, and it gets more and more complicated and involved every day. So, you know, kudos to you, and I wish they were here to see that. There was mention, separate thing, there was mention of an executive session coming up. Yeah, it's on the agenda there. And I just wanted to remind the board that the public has the right to know the specific reason the board is having an executive session as per New York State open meetings law. And maybe you were going to present that, maybe you weren't, but I just wanted to be sure that at least the 1 or 2, 3 or 4 people that are here know exactly what the executive session is about. And again, and thank you for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board forum, starting on my right, Ms. Steinbeck. Anything? Ms.
I
Phillips?
need to correct a previous statement. I got my calendar wrong. I was not here for the September 10th meeting, so I need to change my yes to an abstention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Ms. O'Brien?
I'm good.
Ms. Turner?
I'm good.
I'm all set. Mr. Buno, Ms. Komersky, Ms. Van Orton. All right, and moving to executive session. We're going into executive session for 2 reasons. One is to consider the evaluation of a board employee. And the second is to review.
It's a negotiated agreement related to an individual employee. So it's a collective bargaining issue and an agreement with an individual employee.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. And I need a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Buno, is there a second? Ms. Turner, all in favor? Motion passes. Have a good night, everyone.